And for more on the pandemic response, we bring in Maryland Governor Larry Hogan. He's chairman of the National Governors Association. He's a Republican in a blue state and the author of Still Standing: Surviving Cancer Riots, a Global Pandemic, and the Toxic Politics That Divide America. Thanks so much for joining us, Governor.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So let's start off with the latest round of stimulus talks. Republican lawmakers are looking to cut the enhanced jobless benefits. Currently at $600 a week to just about $200 a week as part of a $1 trillion package. Would that be enough federal aid for the people of Maryland and across the country? And what happens if these negotiations take several weeks?
Well, my biggest concern is if they take a couple of weeks, because people are just desperately in need of this help. I'm concerned that we're arguing about details of how much and how many dollars and what percentage, and we can't seem to find agreement between Republicans and Democrats. And meanwhile, they're saying we might not reach agreement and they might leave for an August recess. That would just be disastrous. And so I'm hoping we can put aside whatever partisan differences there are and find some kind of common sense bipartisan solution in Congress to come up with some type of extension of these benefits, because we need to get people that really need help the help that they need.
As you well know, coronavirus cases are climbing in your state of Maryland. What's your threshold for rolling back your state's reopening? And do you think that the children of Maryland should return to the classroom?
So we have a very detailed plan that we're following, and we're following the science and the advice of the best, smartest public health doctors. Our positivity rate, which we watch very closely, continues to slightly decline. It's down about 90% from our peak back in April. We are seeing a slight rise in the total number of cases, positive cases, because we've increased our testing by 3.5 to 4 times the greater volume. So you'll see some additional cases come in because we're identifying more cases, we're doing more contact tracing and more testing. But most of the numbers are still trending in a pretty good direction for us compared to most other states. But we're watching very cautiously. We're well aware of what's happening in other states. I'd love to see kids get back in the classroom, but we've come up with a flexible plan that we want to make sure we keep those kids as safe as possible.
Of course, you've been highly critical of President Trump's pandemic response. You wrote in an op-ed a couple of weeks ago that Trump has, quote, bungled the effort on testing, and that he talks and tweets like someone more concerned with boosting the stock market and his own reelection. But he has recently encouraged mask wearing. He canceled the RNC convention. He restarted coronavirus briefings. Do you think he's doing a better job? And if so, is it enough?
Well, so I'm very pleased. The Washington Post was an excerpt from the book where I was writing about the early stages of the pandemic in March and April, and I thought that there were some mistakes about not taking it seriously enough. I'm very pleased to see, because I think it's important for the president to message clearly. I thought it was the right decision to cancel the Republican convention in Florida, particularly with the massive outbreaks they're having there. And I think finally the president wearing a mask and messaging, as he said, it was patriotic to wear a mask. I think it's very helpful to the president's base, and I'm glad to see the change in direction from the president. I think it's welcome news.
Right, and you wrote that America's governors are fighting this pandemic alone. As head of the National Governors Association, what do you and your counterparts need most from the federal government right now? And do you think that all governors need or want the same type of help?
For the most part, I mean, the National Governors Association has agreed on certain things. For one thing, we talked about the 4 stimulus package, which there was a commitment from the White House to put $500 billion in additional funding to the states, because we're providing more services to more people with less money, people who really need it. And it appears that those dollars are no longer on the table. We're very frustrated about that. We have a call with the vice president and the coronavirus task force in the cabinet tomorrow with all the nation's governors. We'll be pushing for that. We're also talking about the need, with testing falling behind again, like it was back in March and April, for some additional assistance from the federal government to help us on a coordinated strategy to ramp up the capacity of these national labs so that we're not falling 10 days behind and getting people a test, which makes it virtually worthless in tracking the virus.
You wrote in your memoir that you considered challenging Trump in the 2020 election, but decided it would be a, quote, suicide mission. You said that you're concerned about the future of the GOP. Do you see your party moving to the right, and will Republicans remain the party of Trump through the 2020 election?
Well, there's no question that they will through the 2020 election, because he's going to be the nominee, and the Republicans are going to support him in this election. The question is what happens in that general election and what happens after that. And I think regardless of what happens in November, the Republican Party is going to have to take a close look at itself and decide what direction they're going to head over the next 4 years, and what changes we might make between now and 2024.
And former Ohio Governor John Kasich, a lifelong Republican and, of course, former presidential candidate himself, is expected to speak at the Democratic National Convention in August. So what are your thoughts about that move? And do you see it as a betrayal of the party?
Well, look, I think John Kasich has a right to do whatever he wants to do. And, I'm a guy who hasn't been afraid to stand up and speak out when I think the president is wrong. But that, I would not, endorse, Joe Biden or speak at the Democratic convention. As a former elected official, a former governor, and he has the right to make his own decisions. But it's not something I would do.
So you've said that you didn't vote for Trump in 2016. You say there's no chance you're going to vote for Biden in 2020. What would Trump have to do between now and November, within the next less than 100 days, in order to win your vote?
I'm just really trying to stay focused as the chair of the governors. I got to work with the president and with the governors on both sides of the aisle. And luckily, I get to avoid really partisan politics because I don't have to get involved in the campaign. And like a lot of Americans, I get to go back in that booth and pull the curtain. The president has lost my state by nearly 30 points. My vote's really not going to make a big difference in those electoral votes in Maryland. But I'll have to make that decision like everybody else.
Governor, thank you so much for your time. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.